everybody. I wanted to talk to you about week 5. I know we're not in week 5 yet, but there's a lot happening in week 5. So I wanted to go ahead and prepare you for that. I decided to go ahead and let that folder open on Friday. So if you finish up with your work for week 4, get your discussion board post done, all of that. Make sure you have everything done for week 4 first, of course, but I wanted to give you the opportunity to at least look into week 5 and see what's going on there, because you have some big things happening in week 5. So we're halfway done after this week. Woo! You're making it. So a couple of things. First of all, I have graded all of the analysis sheets, the planning sheets that came in. Those are graded now, and no matter what your grade was, I left you some feedback, some suggestions, some things to think about for your thesis statement specifically, or maybe about the paper generally. So make sure that you go back and look at that feedback that I left you, because I gave feedback to everybody, even if you got full credit. Overall, I was very pleased with those. Everybody was headed in the right direction for the most part. I really tried to take a look at your thesis statement. So, make sure you read those comments so you know you're on the right track. Okay. But for week 5, we have a couple of things due. So that planning sheet, you now need to take that and write a paper. Okay. So you need to actually analyze your short story, make it into a paper. It needs to be in MLA format. So that is, you need Times New Roman 12. You need 1-inch margins all the way around. Everything should be double spaced. Make sure you put the header in the upper left-hand corner and your last name page number in the upper right-hand corner. Those papers do need to be submitted as a Word document. Otherwise, I cannot edit them inside of Blackboard. That's one of the few things that I don't love about Blackboard, is if it's not a Word document. So if you submit it as a PDF or something like that, I can't do any editing inside your paper. And I want to be able to give you feedback, because you're going to have to do another one of these in 2 weeks. So that being said, that paper, so now you're going to make it an actual essay where you give me an introduction, body, paragraphs, and conclusion. All right. Remember that in your introduction, give me a little bit of background, maybe a little bit of the story, what we need to understand about the story, or even if you're going to do a literary theory, maybe give us a little information on literary theory, whatever that may be. Don't forget to put your thesis. Goes at the end of the introduction. And then in the body, what you're going to do is for each body paragraph, you're going to give us a topic sentence that explains one example from the story that proves your thesis, or one area of the story that proves your thesis, and then give supporting details from the story. So your body paragraphs need to be made up of 3 things. 1, a topic sentence that's in your own words that explains, here's what I'm proving in this paragraph about my thesis. Okay. Lots of supporting details from the story. If you're using the author's exact words, which is totally fine, be sure you put in quotation marks and give me page numbers if you have them, which most of you should. If you don't have page numbers, you need to give me paragraph numbers. Either one's fine. And then you need to offer some explanation. How do these examples show the point you're making? So don't just give me topic sentence and dump a bunch of quotes in there. That's not the end of it, okay? Then you need to explain them. And then when you're done with that, move on to the next body paragraph, talk about the next example from your story, give me more details, explain those details, and move on. All right. And then, don't forget to also include a conclusion. I'm also looking to see that you have transitions, that you use good grammar. So I am grading for that as well. Okay. So speaking of that, and again, you can see they're due by Wednesday. If I go into week 5, here is where you will submit that assignment. It's just right in here. You'll click. I've also included those paper directions again. So if you want to see the handout that had the directions on how to make it a paper, you can see that in there. But I'm going to do this. If you click on it, you should be able to see the rubric, but I wanted to show you what this rubric looks like for this paper. So let me get it open. Okay, so here's what the rubric looks like for this paper. It's worth 200 points overall, and your thesis is worth 25 points. That should be a really easy grade because I've already taken a look at all of your thesis statements. So the thesis gives me the title, the author, and what point you're proving about the story. Remember that you do need to be proving a point here. Okay, content, that you have 3 or more body paragraphs that relate to the thesis. The support you provide comes from the book. You give me some kind of intro that has some background of the idea that you're analyzing, and the conclusion wraps up the points being made. Okay, the supporting details themselves are the biggest part. So the supporting details are quoted from the book. You give me correct citations. Make sure you see that handout on making it a paper because it'll show you how to do that. The writer makes connections between the details and the points being made. Okay. Organization, that you have a thesis, you have clear topic sentences, you have good transitions. All right. Grammar, correct spelling, punctuation, that you have complete sentences, not fragments or run-ons. And then the last thing you need to include is a works cited citation of your story. All right. So make sure you include that at the end. If you don't know how to do that, you can Google OWL, OWL, Purdue, and see how to cite a book. All right, so you can do it that way. Also on the literary analysis handout, there's a sample works cited citation as well. So any of those are fine, but you do need to include a works cited citation at the end. All right, so you can print this off if you want to, okay, things like that, but it is included there in the assignment, but the paper itself is worth 200 points, okay? The big thing I'm looking for, honestly, in this paper is that you write me an analysis and not a summary. So remember when we talked in week 1, the difference between analysis and summary? Make sure that this is analysis, okay? Also in week 5, I have included poetry terms. So, just a reminder that you want to be writing down these terms, the definitions of the terms from all the prezzies and things, because you will see those on the poetry test. Yes, there is a poetry test, okay? However, there are not quizzes during the poetry unit. All your grades from this section will come from the discussion board, okay? All right, there are 2 prezzies for this week. The first one is on sound. And so it's some of those really key terms there. And then the other one is on form and symbol. I'm going to post a separate video about form and symbol because this is about feet and meter and things like that. And I find my students really struggle with that. So I will post a separate video going through these 2 prezzies talking about poetry terms. But that's what you need to know for week 5. Also, the discussion board for week 5. Make sure there's only 1 person per poem, so you don't get to double dip with anybody. Everybody should do their own. There should be enough for everybody. So there's a lot of poems this next week in week 5. However, a lot of them are really short. So don't feel overwhelmed by that. Some of them are haikus that are only 5 lines. So some are short. I will be honest, some of them are very long. Okay, but you can do this. And then shortly we will move on to Hamlet. Okay, if you have any questions about your paper, about poetry terms, about the discussion board, whatever that may be, feel free to shoot me an email over here and I will be happy to talk to you about those things. All right, happy writing. See you later.